Hello all, welcome to episode 13 of Will I Like It interviews. I figured number 13 kind of special in my life. Anybody who knows I'm a big Friday the 13th fan, so I figured why not get a special guest, the one, the only Lee of DRUMDUMS. Lee, say hello.
Man, it's an honor to be here. I've been following your interview path for the last 12 interviews, and you've interviewed some heavyweights in there too, man. But
yeah, you're in that company now, buddy. Let's
yeah, I made it, right?
Yeah.
To be number 13 though, that's like the ultimate.
Yeah. So here you are starting off being all polite. I might as well segue right into it. You probably are one of, if not the nicer YouTubers that I'm affiliated with, I speak to. For better or worse, I would say that it frustrates me how nice you are. Somebody like Cody Leach, for instance, he's got 8,000 subscribers, a bigger base, but he's not afraid to tell somebody if they're being a bit of a shit.
Oh, no, he's not. Yeah,
you seem to take the high road. Why?
I'm gonna blame my mother for that. Without sounding like a cliche, my mom is like the kindest, gentlest person you will ever meet in your whole life. And just there's been times where I've seen her like upset, and it's not very often. And it's the most heartbreaking thing ever. And I think maybe just a little bit of that rubbed off on me. And I've never been like a quote unquote mean person. I always look for the high road, and it's just like an instinct. I don't even like plan it. It just happens. And I think that's just from 43 years of just being that type of guy. Maybe it's a little bit of that Southern mentality. I don't know, because, you know, people from the Northeast, that's a different breed right there, you know?
And what are you trying to imply?
Nothing, actually. I respect them for that. You know, like when I was in the military, I served with a lot of guys from, you know, the North, the Northeast. And funny enough, I found myself like in that clique, getting along with those type people better than, you know, I guess people like me. If it's kind of weird, I don't know, but yeah, but I've just always been that way.
See, how do you
respect everybody? You know, I mean, I respect people like you that automatically say, no, you call a spade, you know, and sometimes I'm like, I wish I would have said that.
Well, see, I appreciate the comment. Your check's in the mail.
Thank you.
But Cody calls people on their shit more than I do. I try to bring everybody down. Nobody's perfect. That's what I try to do. I try to make jokes about it, but you know, I wouldn't say that I call somebody on their shit. Like I said, Cody's probably the trophy as far as, you know, just telling somebody they're being a shit. But yeah, how did you balance that being in the Army? Marines? Did I just offend you?
No offense. Air Force. I was in the Air Force.
Air Force.
The Army is the first one that people gravitate to. But yeah, I was in the Air Force. And what was the question again? How did I?
What? Yeah, so being so nice, how do you manage to keep that while still being an armed forces representative of? You can't be so polite in that environment. I can't imagine.
No, you can't. You know, it's a switch, and you just have to turn it on. And it's not just the military. Like in my current job that I have people under me, and you have to be able to flip a switch and be a different person than in your outside life. And in the military, especially though, when I was in the military, sometimes I'd have 30 guys under me. And you know, you have to turn it on, and you have to, without being a complete dick. Cause there's different approaches to directing, and I've never taken the approach of screaming at somebody. You know, I've just never been that type of guy. My way has always been the, I guess, peacemaker type of way, but still getting them to accomplish the mission. That was always my first approach. Sometimes it might lead to me having to say, okay, you're being a dumbass, so now I got to be honest with you. You know, and that's happened before too, but most of the time I can usually get people to do, you know, if it's a job type deal, you know, people under me. I most of the time I've never had a problem with getting somebody to do what I needed them to do.
So chat's pretty lively.
Yeah.
Cody's here. There's a Jason plug predictable. Dude, at 13, I have to.
Yeah.
And Cody says, the low road is awesome. Join me, Lee. We'll hold hands and call people cunts.
Hello, Emily. How are you doing?
Emily's here. She says it sounds
Always
like fun.
a pleasure. Yeah.
Of
White
course.
Tim. All right, cool.
Peter Slasher. Hey, CP, Lee, Cody, Emily, everyone. I guess he's saying hello to be in the chat. White Tim. Hi.
Yep.
Hi.
Brian
Hi.
Brian Lomax.
It's flipping distracting, mate.
I was talking.
Just a bunch of what's upses. How are things with you? Yeah, now they're talking to each other. My stepdad was in the Air Force, quite standoffish by all accounts. That's
yeah, you definitely get that type. I had a lot of supervisors that I could not stand just because they were just complete assholes.
John Steele says, I definitely know what it's like to be in charge of a squad leadership, but mostly by example.
Yeah.
So that, again, it sounds like it's a little conflicting to me, because if you're in this, I don't know what type of combative environment you're in, but to be polite when you have to hand out these missions, it seems.
Well, when I was in the Air Force, combative environment is a strong word to put it. I was deployed to Afghanistan and to Saudi Arabia and to Kuwait. But a lot of times when you're deployed, you're not on the front lines with a gun. You're carrying a gun just in case, shit goes down. But most of the time it was really just a day-to-day job. My job in the military was I was a civil engineer. I came in as a welder, and I crossed over to carpentry and construction. So my job in the military was mostly construction. And I think that's a big misconception with people too that aren't in the military or never been in the military. They think everybody in the military goes in, they are handed a gun, and they're on some battlefield somewhere. And it's like, couldn't be farther from the truth. Really, it's a job. You're serving your country still. If we go to war, then yeah, you would still have to go to war. I would say that guys like in the Marines, in the Army, I respect everybody that serves our country first. Let's put that out there. But there are some people whose jobs might put them in harm's way more than others, you know? So, and my job was not, I did a few convoys, which was a really cool experience. I saw some things over there that made me, really happy and really grateful for what we have in our country. So it kind of gives you a new perspective on things. But yeah, like I had just a taste of it. Nothing like some people might say. I don't have PTSD. So let's put it that way.
Were you ever in Trashcanistan?
For a year. Yeah, I was over there in 2012, pretty much. That's a funny segue into my YouTube career, because that is really what I would say. Afghanistan was the catalyst of what made me want to review movies. I was actually over there. It was at night, and I was just going on YouTube, and I wasn't like a constant YouTube user back then, but I've always loved movies. And so, I'm just browsing YouTube, and I believe my first review I ever saw was Jeremy Johns. And that blew my hair back. Like I couldn't believe that somebody like us was standing there in front of a camera and doing it well, And that was like, but the most important thing about that moment was, if I can do this, if he can do this, I can do this. I'm not going to do it well when I start doing it, but I can do this. And so, but yeah, so Afghanistan is kind of the reason, or the spark of the reason why I'm here now.
Yeah, you kind of segued for me there. So when you got back, what was the thing that really kind of kicked you in the ass?
Besides my wife? Now, I didn't start doing YouTube until I actually established DRUMDUMS in 2014. And this will give somebody that's never gotten in front of a camera before a little perspective. It took me 6 months to actually record my first review. That's how scary it was. My first review technically was Godzilla, and I just started my DRUMDUMS account. And I'm driving down the road, and I was like, I'm gonna try this, right? This can't be that hard. As soon as I turned on the camera, man, I was just like, what the hell am I doing? And I did get something recorded, but I think I stopped like right in the middle of it, and then I deleted that file, and it's gone forever. And I never picked up the camera again until like 6 months later. January of 2015 was my first actual review.
So considering that you stopped, what made you say, you know what, let me do this again? All right. So let me help you out there while you're drinking. There's some.
Good.
Okay.
There was always this like burning desire to do it. And I think the thing that made me do it finally was equipment, because I would talk about movies with my wife all the time, and we'd go to the movies, and I'd be like, man, I got so much to say about this movie I just saw. And so my wife actually said, we're going to buy you what you need. We're going to get you a camera, which is still the camera I use to this day, 3 years later. We're going to get you a lighting rig, and you're going to start your YouTube channel. And if it fails, it fails. And if it doesn't, then, there you go. Yeah, and so once I bought that equipment, then it was go time. And I remember still to this day that after I bought that equipment, I went on Facebook immediately, because my thing is, if I post it on Facebook or Twitter, it's happening. That's like my thing. And so I got on Facebook, and I was like, something like recording reviews this weekend, it's go time, or something like that. And so from then on, I was like, okay, I got to do this now. And I started recording my first review, and I quit like 3 times in the middle of it. But I kept telling myself, you know what? Keep doing it, get through it. We'll edit it after, and we'll see how it turns out. And so after that first one was done, man, I was just like, okay, I sucked. That was horrible, but I got through it. So now what's next?
Well, you said so you didn't have the equipment the first time you started, when you did the Godzilla review.
Yeah, the first time I started, it was just on a little Galaxy phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, really shitty quality. Driving in a car with the thing like, moving in front of my face, and really bad. I had no idea what I was doing.
Well, I mean, how much of it would you say is ego? Because let me preface before you answer, but some of it you have to have an ego to sit in front of a camera in an empty room and say, you know what, my opinion's important. How much would you say that, thinking enough of your opinion was driving you to do things like that?
I think you're right. You do have to have an ego, but you also have to have like a desire. And you definitely got to be brave, which, because I've talked to so many people, on social media that have asked me like, how do you do it? What do I need to do to get this done? And the first thing I tell them is be yourself. That's it. And I think that was the thing that, who am I? I am somebody that loves movies. If you don't love movies, then you should not be reviewing movies. You got to genuinely love this. And I think that's it. You got to have passion for it. And I genuinely have passion for movies, so much so that I think I was made fun of growing up. Not, like lovingly made fun of. I'm sure you've been in this situation too, where you're like in a work environment or something like that, and you start talking about movies, and then you just get that freaking dog that's just been showing a card trick look. And they can't like elaborate. They can't like jump in that conversation with you. All they can say is, yeah, it was okay, or something like that. So I think that was a big thing that made me want to do it too, is just, I wanted to get in there, get a conversation going. So it's a combination of things. It is the ego. It is the passion. It's a lot of different things. But I think the first thing is you got to love it.
Yeah. Love it. So you've mentioned this quite a few times, that you have quite a bit of self-awareness of your Nightcrawler review not being up to what you're at now. So
no,
how much do you think, looking inward and saying, you know what, this needs to improve? Like when do you start realizing that? Like, how long did it take you to figure out, I'm doing this wrong? Or
I'm gonna be honest with you, every video.
Really?
Pretty much every video I go back and I watch it probably once, just for that reason, just to critique myself and say, okay, you sucked here, and here. Or I don't use the word suck, but I look at them as yeah, even right. I look at it as a learning experience. And you know what? I'll go ahead and say I like, it's kind of fun to go back and look at those old videos, although I don't do it that often. Because it's almost like I don't see myself. I see a different person. And I'm like, you go, man. I'm glad you actually had the courage to do that, because when I go back and look at my first video, I feel bad for that guy. Like, I feel scared for that guy, because that guy is scared to death. And I'm like, you know what? Good for you. It's not just me. It's like anybody that's doing their first video for the first time. Like, somebody just sent me their first video just yesterday. It's like, hey, I just did my first video. Could you check it out and tell me what you think? And I was like, sure. And he sent me his video.
And you were a sweetheart, of course.
Yeah.
Regardless if it was bad.
And I did give him some critique. I told him, you might not want to start the video with a complete movie trailer, because then you'll lose your audience, because YouTube audiences are like, boom, boom. I need it fast, and I need it quick, and I need to be done with it. So,
like me in bed.
Exactly. Perfect example. So, but yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. You have to be willing to take that first step, So I used to be like, wow, I sucked when I first started, and I still do, but I still got to give myself credit for having the will to do it.
Right. So you said the first step, but at the same time, I mean, we all recognize that there's improving to be done. So the first step's only the first step. When you're done with that first step, what did you like? What point did you say, you know what, I need to change this, or that I could probably tweak that. Maybe I could edit tighter. Was it something that you recognize, like you said in every video after you did the Nightcrawler video? Was there something that you said, you know what, I could probably tighten up the edit, or I could look to camera? That was something that I didn't realize I wasn't doing.
That was the first thing. I'm glad you said that. That was the very first thing that I critiqued myself on, that I noticed. And if you go back and watch my first review, I'm not looking at the camera that much. If there's something about looking, and I'll take a quote from Jeremy Johns. He said, looking into a camera for the first time is weird as shit. And I didn't understand that until I did it the first time, but it's hard to make eye contact with that camera. I guess maybe some people can do it easily, but my first time, even still today, there's sometimes you can still catch me looking away from the camera. I don't know what it is, but that was my first critique for myself. And then the editing came after that. I think my presentation was the first thing that I constantly was trying to hone in on. And then after that, because if you look at my editing, my editing was not good for at least that first year, and I didn't even notice it. And so when I started, I got Adobe Premiere Elements. I upgraded my software, and I look at other reviews. Hell, I've gotten ideas from you. I've gotten ideas from, I get ideas from everybody. I do, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't copy anybody, but
nobody's original anyway. I mean,
if things do pop out in other videos, I'm like, oh, that's probably a better way to do that than what I'm doing. Because so yeah. And I think one thing is like the constant cuts. You got to figure out a way around that, because unless that's your thing, if that's your stick, like some YouTubers, they do the constant cuts, but they're so natural and so good at it that it works for them. Whereas I'm not that type of guy.
You could also disguise it too. I mean,
yeah.
I know what you're saying. Without any sort of something to break it up, it is a little jarring.
Yeah, I'm not that talented. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. For me, a YouTube video is a production. I have to like put it all together. Like, I got this piece here, and I got this piece here, and I got this piece here, and there's all these different things, and I have to put it all together so that way it's seamless when it runs through. Whereas when I that first year when I was doing it, it wasn't like that at all. It was just I wanted to get through the review, and I didn't care so much about the cuts as much.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, the chat is on fire again. I'll go back a little bit. Everybody's talking about their first videos. I did your podcast, but it was horrible. Somebody just subbed to you. I got you a sub. Look at that.
Hey, look at that. Thank you.
Happy to help.
Who subbed to me? I would like to thank them.
Nintendo 2009.
All right, sweet. Thank you, Nintendo. I appreciate that.
Tiger Man says, hey. Sinister Cinema Review says, yo, Lee. A bunch of hellos. Being yourself and being true to your personality is evident to the audience. Most people can tell when others on YouTube put a mask on and act fake. What do you say to that, Lee? I'll go back to me saying that you're too much of a sweetheart.
Yeah, I'm a sweetheart, but I'm not fake. Like I don't, and I have some controversial reviews out there, so I think I'm not fake. Just today, I just did a review for the open house,
Mhm.
and that's a movie that's pretty much universally hated at this moment, and
Mhm.
I liked it. I did, and that's the first thing you can do as a reviewer is be completely honest, because if you're not, your audience will call you out on it in a heartbeat. I think eventually they will. So
Yeah,
you
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you have to stand by your opinions. That's your word. Your word is more important than anything that you do when you do a review. So if you love something, stand by it. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I'm one of the few guys that freaking wave that flag.
Mhm.
I love that movie. I know most people hate it, but you know what? And I stand by it. I stand by my word no matter what. And I know that I get crap about it from you guys lovingly. And
Mhm.
I love that though. I love movies that are
Well,
divisive. I love movies that cause a debate or conversation.
let me piggyback that statement you just made. So I'm one of the people that probably give you the most shit, and I love you. I hope everybody realizes that. But you have a bunch of people that trust your opinion,
Hmm.
and there are many times where if you watch something on a second, like Star Wars, your first and second viewings were very separate. I mean, Cody says that trademark leave
My
flip
famous
flop.
second viewings.
Yeah. So, how do you feel to people that trust your opinion one way or another, and then it changes? Like, do you feel like you're I don't know. Do you feel like you're being how do you feel about that? How do you feel like when people trust your opinion and then you say one thing or another?
No, no, I know exactly what you mean. What
Do
word
you
did
really?
you? Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Well, I guess it's a case by case type thing. Like with the Last Jedi, it was more of a haze than anything after I saw, because it's Star Wars, first of all.
Hmm.
And you can't even almost breathe when if you're a Star Wars fanatic like I am.
Hmm.
When you go see that Star Wars movie for the first time, it's like you can't even like take everything in because so much is happening at once and you are excited because it's Star Wars. And The Last Jedi was a movie that had balls and took risks. And after that first viewing, I was like in a haze about the whole thing. I wasn't fully there. Um, there were some things that were confusing to me as far as like how I felt about it. And so it was one of those movies I was like, I have to watch this a second time because I can't, because I was going to review the movie the Thursday that it came out. I didn't get the review out until a week later. It was, and I didn't want to be dishonest with my audience. I didn't want to fake a review and say this movie was amazing, even though I was still completely confused and just in a haze about the whole thing. So I waited a week and I watched it again. And when I watched it the second time, I loved it. I love the hell out of it. So that I think that's my thing with like second viewings. And I think everybody's different with movies, with their opinions. Some people can be seduced by movies, and some people they are like their first watch is that's it. I'm done. If I watch it again, that's exactly how I'm gonna feel. And I respect that. But I can get seduced by movies. I really can. If there's like a catalyst in a movie that if I saw it the first time and I didn't like it, but there was something that I liked about it,
Hmm.
something that grabbed my curiosity that made me want to go research it more, like Ice Cream Truck. That's a perfect example. While I was watching that movie, um, there were things that popped out at me that I was like, okay, that's not like up to A standards.
Hmm.
Um, but there was something that just stayed with me after I watched the movie. Have you ever watched the movie like right after you get done watching it? You feel like I didn't like that movie, and then for some reason the next day the movie's still there. And
I,
usually
I
most of
could confidently
yeah,
say that I was like that with Ice Cream Truck. Yes, it was
yeah,
still there.
yeah. But like I'll give you a perfect example. The Jumanji movie. It was good. I liked it. It was not in my head the next day. You know what I mean? It was more of like a cheeseburger.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. No, I see what you're
Even
saying.
though I liked the movie, it was still gone after the
Hmm.
next day. Ice Cream Truck, for some reason, a week after, there was something about that movie that kept staying in my head. And so, and I guess I have a conversation with myself. Maybe there's something about that movie that I like. And so I think that's why I just kind of came around to it. And even though I did like it the first time, as it percolated and sat with me over the week, I found myself like loving it. Like, you know, if a movie makes me just constantly think about it, that's got to say something, right?
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly.
So have you ever had a review that you did on one of your famous flip-flops where somebody commented on it and was like, "Oh, I'm so glad," or you know, whatever your opinion was on the review, where you've since changed your mind and had to tell somebody, "Yeah, that it's a little bit different now."
Oh, absolutely. I know for a fact that's happened a couple of times actually, where I can go back and look at some of my first reviews for, Jurassic World is a perfect example.
Okay.
I gave Jurassic World a Trapped on an Island. And now I'm not the biggest fan of Jurassic World. It's
All
just, for some reason, I think after I watched it the second viewing, it was the opposite effect. I watched it the second time. The T-Rex scene at the end was awesome, really cool. Everything before that, I wasn't like on board, you know, it felt like the same old, same old. So that does happen sometimes. Sometimes you love a movie the first time, you get caught up in the romance of it and all that stuff. And then, you know, after the dust settles and the hype's gone, then all you're left with is that movie. And, you know, I guess you gotta be honest with yourself. But, and you know, if I say my opinion on a movie the first time, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm always going to think that about that movie. My mind changes on movies all the time. Hell, sometimes third viewing. You know, it's Resident Evil is one that I like almost hated that movie. The first Resident Evil.
The first one.
Yeah, the first one. Yeah, the first one. I almost hated that movie for like 3 viewings, and now I have a damn good time with Resident Evil. You know, that's just movies. Maybe that's just one reason why I love movies so much.
It's probably the successive films after that made you appreciate the first one a bit.
Yeah, that might have something to do with
it. So you kind of focused. You were spread out pretty well when we were both coming up together. I think in 2015.
Yeah.
Both
Class
doing
2015.
Yeah, doing Universal, you know, everything, any type of movie, and you've kind of shifted focus, I guess, mostly to horror.
Yeah.
And if I could put my finger on it, I would say it started with one documentary with another YouTuber, which was quite well made, if I do say so.
Yeah, man.
Whoever that was.
I definitely want to get back to that too. You kind of lit the fire in me for horror. I've always been a horror fanatic, but I like superhero movies and I like good drama. I like to take a quote from Adam Marcus, who directed Jason Goes to Hell. He said, it's a good quote though. He says, horror fans love all types of films. They just love horror the most. I truly believe that. I love all types of movies, some more than others. I'm not the biggest like romantic comedy type of guy, but I appreciate good filmmaking. And you know, there are good romantic comedies out there. I love movies in general, but horror is where my heart is. And I think when I started YouTube, I don't think I started out with 100% wanting to do horror, but if a good horror movie came along, I was jumping all over it. Like The Guest, which is not fully horror, but it definitely has a horror element to it.
Yeah, it has some sort of DNA in horror.
Yeah. When I reviewed that one, I right after I reviewed it, I was like, wow, I really wanted to review that one more than like the other movies that I've reviewed so far, even though before that I didn't review that many movies. But so maybe it was like a subconscious thing, like, hey, you actually enjoy talking about these types of movies, so maybe you should just focus on those. Plus, there are channels out there that all they talk about is Marvel and Star Wars, and that's great. You know, that's what they love doing. That's where their passion is. But that's a tough market. It's a really tough market. So sometimes you got to be, I guess, business minded, for lack of a better term. You got to go where the audience needs to go. You know, sometimes the audience is not going to go to Star Wars and Marvel because they already have that market cornered. So
it's saturated. Yeah,
it's saturated. Yeah. And so I thought, you know what, I love talking about horror movies, but also there are people starving for reviews for certain movies that just aren't out there. And so, yeah, that was kind of my thinking too.
Yeah. So What's your opinion on the communities? Because is it safe to say you're mostly horror at this stage? You're probably at least 50%, if not mostly horror, right? When you do reviews?
I actually have a number. I always tell people I'm 85% horror.
Okay. So at
Yeah,
least 50 was generous, right?
yeah, 50 is generous. I'd say if you look at my last 10 videos, probably 8 of them are going to be centered around horror in some form or not, and that's just because that's what I'm passionate about.
What do you notice about the different communities? Because I know, like I said, when we were coming up, we were in a couple of Venn diagram communities of movie fans, and this last week alone, it seems like the horror community has come together quite strong. What is your opinion of the different communities and the difference between the horror community as opposed to just like universal?
Well, first off, I think communities are really important, and the community is the thing that really like kicked me into high gear. I remember Art from A to Z Reviews. I mean, his channel's like skyrocketed, like into the stratosphere now. But when I first started, I remember Art when he had like 3,000 subscribers, and he sent me a message on Facebook saying, "Hey, I got this thing called Cineclash. And I would love for you to jump on." And at the time I had like, I think 200 subscribers. And I was like, wow, this is really nice. You know, this is a guy with 3,000 subscribers, and he's reaching out and he's being really cool with me. And he asked me on his show. And so that was my first taste of the community. And then I met all these great people. You know, I met Tim from the Late Reviews, now Reviewed Later. I met Durant Cinema. I met you. I met Gord from the movie. I mean, there were so many of us that we all kind of started out together, and you know, I think that's one thing I always brag about the community when people ask me, why do you do YouTube?" And I think the first thing I usually say is the community. I love the people. These are people that I consider better friends than people that I see in person, and that sounds crazy to some people, but
not to me. No.
Not at all.
Totally. Well, I guess because I'm one of those types of people, but I totally see what you're saying. You'd rather talk to somebody that has like-minded interests than, you know, your shitty uncle who, you know,
exactly
whatever.
It sounds crazy to somebody on the outside, but it actually makes complete sense because you're matched up. It's almost like matchmaker for friends. Right. You're matched up with people that have your likes and interests. But just to also answer the horror question, I think out of all the communities, I think the horror community is the strongest and just most like together. I don't know. There's such a passion with horror fans that I don't see with other genres, I guess. And I could be wrong.
No, I agree with you. And I you know, me being a stickler and picking on people, I notice that there's some jealousy, some snarkiness in regular movie communities, but horror, it seems to be more of a unified front, and more
seems like
a
the
family
horror community, like everybody's like they root for each other more. You know, it's not as much about competition. It's more about, man, I just saw your review. You know, a guy with 200 subscribers is talking to a guy with 10,000 subscribers, and they're like on the same wavelength with each other, and they're like, man, did you see The Burning? Wasn't that such a great movie? And those two guys aren't thinking about the number of subscribers they have. They're thinking about their love of The Burning, you know.
So you're talking about family and community. You have a rather successful Facebook group titled Killer Flicks. What drove you to say, you know what, I'm gonna extend past the YouTube page. I mean, because it's not called DRUMDUMS, the fan group. It's Killer Flicks. It's where people just talk about movies. What drove you to say, you know what, I want to open a discussion where it's just a group where everybody's just shooting the shit?
Well, first off, it was a Saturday afternoon. I can't shit you not. This is true. It was a Saturday afternoon. It was July of 2016, I think. And a good friend of mine, Mariana from Impression Blend, she messaged me and she said, I'm looking at all the like Facebook groups, and I see, you know, I'm trying to find a horror group that everybody seems to be, you know, respectful to each other, and there's not like drama. And she said, you should start that group. And I'm like, Mariana, why don't you start the fucking group?
You have the idea, you do it.
She's like, you're the horror guy. Why don't you start the group? And I was I was like, I thought about it for a second. I was like, that's a great idea. And so I went on, I started up the group, and I didn't expect it to go more than 100 members. And I didn't want it. I didn't care if it went more than 100 members. I just wanted kind of our YouTube community and maybe some subscribers and all that stuff to come in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it just grew and grew and grew. And I think it grew because it's like a family. Like it literally is like a family in Killer Flicks. I can think of probably 15, 20 people right off the top of my head that just pop into Killer Flicks like every day, you know, and they say that, hey, this is the first thing I do when I get up in the morning, you know, and that's just like the ultimate thrill to have a community like that. Like, yeah, even me, when I get up in the morning, I go on Killer Flicks and I see what people are talking about, what movies people are getting excited about. I've found, since I started Killer Flicks, I've probably found at least a dozen movies that I never would have probably even thought about.
Right.
Watching. That's the one thing I really love about it. That you know, those deep cuts, you find a lot of them in Killer Flicks. I got into Giallo movies, Giallo films because of Killer Flicks. I probably would have never even delved into that world, and I love it.
So let me play devil's advocate and flip a little bit because it's me and not you. There's a couple of people in that group that perhaps take horror a little too seriously. I mean, granted, it is a horror centric group. There are, you know, you have your Fridays where it's just free for all. Anybody can talk about anything. But it seems that people seem to get a little testy if somebody wants to talk about something that isn't specifically horror, or more. It seems more importantly, if they don't want to talk about Halloween, Friday the 13th, or Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, those. It's funny. We did a Horror Needs a Hero episode called The Big Three, and we never realized how true that statement is. Because that's all. I mean, I'd say probably like 85% of your discussion in Killer Flicks is eventually it's going to pop back into those, you know, that direction. But I think it's just even with YouTube, you know, in your comment, you're going to have people that are, I guess, for lack of a better term, a little bit more passionate than you are about things. You're going to have people out there that they don't want to talk about anything but horror. It happens. I would say that most of the people in Killer Flicks, they love Free For All Fridays, which I have to give my daughter credit for, by the way. She's the one that came up with that. But yeah,
can you take credit for anything? You just keep passing everything off to somebody else. Stop being so goddamn polite.
I'm not responsible for any of this. I take good ideas and I put them out there.
Your mom's the reason you're nice. Your wife's the reason you're doing this. Your daughter's the reason Free For All Friday. I'm the reason horror. Just take it.
Do I own anything?
I don't know. Do you?
No, nothing. Oh, jeez.
So I'm sorry, I cut you off. She was the reason that Free For All Friday started.
Yeah, and I guess my point was that, you know, there's always people out there that you can't make everybody happy, you know. But I think you can make most of the people happy if you know what you're doing. And it seems like in Killer Flicks, I constantly get comments from people saying, "Hey, this group is different than other groups that I've been in," and I don't know what made that happen. Like, I can't figure that out yet. We do have kind of a screening system. When people come in, they have to answer 3 basic horror questions, and maybe that helps a little bit. But yeah, other than that, they're just really good people. It's weird, but you're always going to have some people that, you know, like to create controversy or like to be dicks, and you know, you can't get around that. You just got to know how to maneuver.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, between Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, you're pretty strong in your Twitter game, Instagram. How much do you think that takes up your personal life? Like how much time is Lee spending on DRUMDUMS? Like how much of a job that isn't really a job is it?
This is something that you're gonna have to figure out when you start doing YouTube. I was not good at my time management when my first couple years, I would say. I was all over the place. I would go and you know, I'd see a movie and then I'd go sit down and record, and then I'd edit, and then I'd be exhausted. And so you got to figure out a way to, and if you want to be serious about this thing, and if you want to be consistent with your content, then you got to figure out a way to make it work. And the thing that I figured out that worked for me was I basically started doing batch recording. I record. I try to do on a good day. I'll try to do like 3. I'll try to record 3 reviews, and then so I can have time with my family. What I'll usually do is I'll get up, and now this might sound crazy to some people, but I'll get up at 4:30 in the morning before I go to work. That's passion. Yeah. Do I always want to get up at 4:30 in the morning? No, I don't. But that's if you want to put out what you think is a quality product, then you got to put in the time, and so I have a certain expectation of my videos. So I get up at 4:30 in the morning. I go until about 6 o'clock, and then I get ready. I go to work. I come home from work, and then I might put in another hour before my wife gets home. So, because once my wife gets home, then I like to have time for her. So that it's time management. You have to figure out what works best for you. And before I moved here to Florida, I was off on Mondays and Tuesdays. So I had Mondays and Tuesdays to do all that stuff. You just got to figure out what works best for you. And when it stops getting fun, then you need to take a step back, which is another thing. It's nothing wrong with taking a break from YouTube. I see people doing it sometimes, but I think if you burn yourself out, you might end up quitting forever. So I think sometimes it's a good idea to take a step back, take a couple weeks. And also that's good because it gives you a chance to reevaluate yourself and maybe notice things that you didn't notice before and say, hey, maybe I shouldn't have uploaded at 7 o'clock in the morning. And maybe I should have uploaded in the afternoon, or maybe I should have uploaded 3 times a week instead of every day. You know what I mean? It gives you a chance to kind of reevaluate things.
Well, it's another thing. Another thing, life happens too.
Life does happen. Yes.
We're not, nobody's professional. So, if something happens personally, it's not like you can say, there's no time for that. At your job, you have to go. This is more of a passion project, and when life takes over, it takes over, whether or not you.
Oh yeah, I've had a few scares myself. My father, he does have health problems, and so there's been a couple times when I've had to drop everything and head home. And I, when I do that, I want to devote all my time to him. So those things definitely do happen, though. Life does happen.
Yeah. I guess the chat. See, I want to go to the chat, but they're all having egg puns. I don't know what. My channel's exceptional, says Emily.
I bet Emily started that.
Excellent comment. Excuse me. Eggs are taking over YouTube. Beth says, "Hey Monty, impressive work ethically. Kudos."
Oh, hello, Beth S. I wanted to say hi. Yeah, she just recently joined my my Patreon team. So
that's awesome.
It's very nice.
Oh, that's a really good segue, Lee. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you're quite well represented on Patreon. What made you say, you know what, I want people to be able to contribute? Was it something that you saw from comments or people supportive, whether it be on Twitter or in the comments or in Facebook? Like what made you think, you know what, I'm worth money?
Well, the saying, time is money. And I think when I was putting in a lot more time than I was used to. I was like, okay, I want to do this. I want to be serious about this. And what's wrong with people supporting what you do? If you love doing something and people love you doing something, and if it helps you along the way, it helps you, because equipment does get expensive. I think that was the big thing. It was just like, and I saw other people, they were doing Patreon, and I know there's a crowd out there that they're not for Patreon, and they think that people that are on Patreon make, boatloads of money, and it's not true. There's some people that do, but I think the big thing is, if there's nothing wrong with supporting somebody, I mean, there's so many other examples of, supporting people monetarily. And I think it's a great thing. I don't see anything wrong with it whatsoever. If it gives somebody the gusto to maybe try a little harder, put out a better product. I will say one thing. Now that I do have a Patreon audience, I look at every video. You know, I definitely make sure that I'm putting out what I think is a quality product.
Wait. Sorry, you're kind of sidestepping the question here, Lee. Let's for once, like, take ownership, own the ego a little bit.
Oh yeah.
At when did you say, you know what, I'm worth people's money? Like what was there some sort of something? Was it an outpouring of comments? Was it, you know, whether it be analytics on YouTube? At what point did you say, you know what, I think I'm worth somebody, you know, subscribing to donations? I don't even know what you call it. What you would call Patreon. I have a Patreon account myself. I don't know what you would call it, but, you know, at what
I think the catalyst for it was the whole demonetization thing. I saw that a lot of channels were, you know, like 100% of their videos were demonetized.
Mhm,
You know, you have some big channels out there that, you know, they were making a certain amount of money every month off of YouTube.
mhm,
And then all of a sudden, you know, and these are channels with like 30,000 subscribers.
right.
And then one day all of it's gone, you know? And
Mhm,
so a lot of the horror community was suffering from this, including myself. And so what other avenues do I have to you know, recover from that? And so really Patreon was the only avenue out there. So, you know, I definitely thought long and hard about it,
mhm.
because I'm not at the end of the day, I'm not at, you know, I'm not doing this because I want money at
Uh,
all. There's still that passion there.
and once and for all, for I know the answer to this, but I want to hear you say it.
Yeah.
How much money would you say, counting all your time, your money spent on equipment, whatever, however much money you put into your videos, how much would you say you make a month? Do
Um,
you make money from YouTube, all things
very,
considered?
very little.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely don't make enough to pay my mortgage, to pay my bills. You know, anything I make off
Yes.
of YouTube goes right back into YouTube. You
Hmm.
know, everything I make off of YouTube, it might go into equipment, it might go into uh, going to the movies, you know, buying movies to review.
Hmm.
Pretty much all my money from Patreon goes back into YouTube. You know, that's really why I did it in the first place, because movies do get expensive. You know, and I do have subscribers that are, they actually send me movies sometimes, you know, they say, hey, I'd like you to review this movie. Can I send it to you? And that's like the nicest thing in the world.
Hmm.
So it's whatever you can do to get some help to be as successful as you can in YouTube. Like, and like I said, sometimes you can't afford to buy every movie that comes out every Tuesday, or to buy some of those Shout Factory releases that are $30 a pop. You know, there's certain movies they get pretty expensive. So it's a combination of things. It's the equipment. I've had to upgrade my audio a few times. Um, you know, my camera's 3 years old, so eventually that'll probably go out. But yeah, and you know what? It's just, I think it's a nice way to just support. If you love what somebody's doing and you want to monetarily support them, I think that's like the nicest thing in the world. I really do.
Yeah. So Beth asks, who you recently, who you said recently became a patron, in the chat. She says, I support a few channels that I genuinely enjoy their content and hard work. To me, it's no different than paying a la carte for Netflix, Hulu, etc.
Yeah,
Which,
that's a perfect way to look at it. You know, Netflix is making Netflix money every month,
mhm,
and they provide a great service.
mhm,
And I think you just have to look at it as a service. You
mhm.
know, people that work at Netflix, they get up every morning, they work a 40-hour week, and they put out that Netflix product.
It's
A
a little bit of
YouTube,
a different analogy, Lee.
no, no,
They're
hold on, let
putting
me
out
finish,
movies. Okay,
that
okay,
analogy.
okay, okay.
A serious YouTuber, I would say, probably puts in half that time, probably puts in at least maybe 20, 30 hours a week
Sure.
if they're really serious. And what's wrong with supporting that? I see nothing wrong with supporting that whatsoever. That's saying, hey, I look forward to your content. When I get a notification bell, that makes me happy. And you know what? I want to support that. So that's what it is. It's support. We
Yeah.
support, you support Netflix, you support YouTube, you support, Walmart, whatever it is, it's support.
it's frustrating. Well, I guess to relate it to something that I'm familiar with as a comedian starting out, you know, you can't perform in New York without they have these things called bringer shows where you have to you can go perform. Anybody can perform in a comedy club just as long as you bring 5 audience members with you.
Yeah.
So there's that thing where like it was really difficult for me to start because I knew I wasn't good. I just needed practice, but I had to have all these people that would, you know, take the time, the money, and come out and spend money that on a comedy show that they know I'm not really that good. So it's support. It's more of a family thing that I don't think people understand. I don't know why there's no proper ownership. I think it goes back to the jealousy thing. I don't know if you agree, but I think people just the hate on the Patreon thing is just people are perhaps jealous. Would you agree with that?
I would say some of them are,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's a misunderstanding too. You know, I think if you're not in that world, like there are people that put out YouTube videos and they spend 10 minutes on them
Mm-hmm.
and they put it out in the world
Mm-hmm.
and they probably get, you know, 10 views.
Mm-hmm.
And if they get, you know, 100,000 views, great. That's amazing. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But can they get that with every video? You know what I mean? Most
Sure.
of the time, if you want to be successful on YouTube, not all the time, but most of the time, you have to work hard. That's what I tell people when they ask me, how can I be successful on YouTube? I'm definitely going to say you have to work hard because that's, you know, I think if you work hard at anything, you can be good at it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
YouTube is no different.
Would you consider yourself a success if you stopped tomorrow? Would you consider yourself a success?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, in my mind, when I think it depends on what that goal is. When I started out, my goal was to get 500 subscribers. And when I got 500 subscribers, I was blown away. Like, wow, I just got 500 subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
So if, you know, on that scale, hell yeah, I feel like I'm a success. I never expected in my wildest dreams to be where I'm at. I still can't believe it. It's crazy.
So with your current situation, what is your goal right now? What is an attainable goal and what is a pie in the sky goal for you?
Oh, my goal right now is 10,000.
Oh, that's gonna happen next week.
I want it bad. Like I want it really bad.
You're
But
you're
I
at
want
9,
it bad,
right?
but I don't want it to happen tomorrow, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like I don't want that. Like if I got like 1,000 subscriber spike in a day at the level that I'm at right now, that would be kind of weird.
Aren't you at 9? You're at 9 right now, right?
I'm about a little less than 200 away from 9. So.
Okay. Yeah. So 9. By this time next week, it'll be 992 and change.
Yeah, I'm probably if I maintain the momentum that I'm at right now, I'm probably like a month, 2 months out from 10,000. But I don't dwell on that number. But it's, of course, when you get 10,000, that's
It's a neat
like
number. Sure.
that's a great number. It is. That's like the first of you know, you got your 1,000, you got your 10,000,
Mm-hmm.
you got your 50,000. You know, I think milestones. That's what it is. You got milestones. So.
And what's a bit of a pie in the sky?
I think everybody. I mean, if you're at the level that like at the 10,000 level, of course you want to get 100,000. That would be freaking amazing. But Cody's Cody's racing me to 10,000 right now.
Yeah, he's gonna. I know he just passed 8,000 today. I think so.
He did. Congratulations, Cody. By the way, that's awesome.
Oh yes,
man.
yes. Congratulations, Cody. See, Lee beating me to be nice.
I know.
Yeah. So there's something that's played out recently in the community that there's this big. I mean, we're kind of double standards. We're putting importance on the subscriber number, but would you say that is would you say that isn't as important as views and you know community and
definitely. And what matters at the end of the day is your views. You could have. I mean, I've seen channels that have. Hell, I've seen channels that have 60,000 subscribers, and they pull 200 views per video. That exists.
Yeah, I struggle to get 100 today. So
no. I'm saying 60,000 though. I've seen channels that have like 60, 70,000 subscribers, and they pull. You know, they might have a video that pops 5,000, but then you know most of their videos they're like 100, 200. So I don't dwell on that number. It's it's really fucking nice to get 10,000, but I don't dwell on that number. I know at the end of the day, if I got 10,000 subscribers and I'm still pulling a certain number of views per video, then something's wrong, you know? So what matters at the end of the day is those views.
What are some of your videos that you're kind of shocked at the response or the view count, or whether it's controversial or what? Like, what are some of your videos that you've done that you're like, man, that's strange that that's getting that much attention? Or
it's a strange science, isn't it? Like, like if you told me pick 5 videos that are gonna pull 10,000 views, I'd probably pick 5 wrong videos. That's the way YouTube works sometimes. I did a video on an episode of The Incredible Hulk, and that thing almost has 40,000 views now. I can't explain it. The video was done in 2015. And for some reason, it just keeps growing and growing and growing. It's weird, you know. But the reason being is because there's no reviews on Incredible Hulk episodes out there, or at least not that many of them. And especially for this episode, I'm the only review for this episode of The Incredible Hulk on all of YouTube. At least I'm pretty sure I am. So, and it's the episode where there's 2 Hulks. It's called The First, and so you got the bad Hulk, which is this tall, lanky, scary looking dude played by Dick Durock. And then you got, Lou Ferrigno. But when I was a kid, I saw that episode and it just scared the crap out of me. And it's always been like one of those episodes that like stuck in my mind. And so one day I thought, you know what? I want to review this because I just, nobody's talking about The Incredible Hulk. And I love that TV show so much. It's nostalgia. It's my childhood.
Sure.
And so I recorded a review on it. And it was one of those reviews that, just little views here and there every, week by week, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. I think there's like a shelf life for certain reviews, and they reach a certain level and then they're done.
Oh, you don't have to tell me. Yeah,
and then there's some that they just keep growing.
Yeah, so. Yeah. I have a video that I did a buttered popcorn hack.
Yeah,
where we're telling people how to get butter in the middle, and that consistently gets 1,000 views a month, and I'm just like, what?
Isn't it crazy?
It's just so strange.
My most successful video is an instructional video I did for electronic drums. It's my second most successful, but it's one I did for electronic drums and how to record your electronic drums to your PC, which I still use to this day too when I do drum covers. But there are a few of them out there, but it's like some guy holding a camera and he can't keep it still, and he's like, "Hey, you got to go to your computer and you got to put this in." Then you got, and so I was like, "I'm gonna make a well-produced video showing you how to do this," and that thing still like gets like 1,000 views a month at least.
Lee, do you have a couple minutes? Can I turn questions over to the chat?
Yeah, sure. Let me grab a monster while we're doing it. Okay.
All right. So what I'll do is I'll tell everybody in the chat if you have any questions that you want to ask Lee and Lee only about Lee, please do so.
I'll be right back.
Okay. And I guess I could man this in some degree. I don't know what we're still going on with the eggs. Emily, you kept that going. I don't know what your problem is. I'm leaving this question for the chat. Okay, well that's not going to help this current situation. A lot of YouTubers have fake followers. Yes, I could attest to that, as I've had somebody who had multiple accounts. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Egg Community has a channel with 50 subs and one video gets 1 million. Go figure. Yeah. So Lee, I don't put much stock in subs. Yes, Emily agrees. Emily's got a lot of high volume videos too.
It's monster time. That's right, Patrick. Yeah.
Do I agree that vanilla Coke is the best
weapon? That's all you needed right here.
Here's the battle. It's vanilla Coke and Monster.
Yeah.
So
Monster
Lee
is my weakness.
Before I'll give, because there's a delay on my thing. I'll give them time to get some questions in. This is what I normally ask at the end of these interviews, so I guess I'll do it now. The channel name is Will I Like It. So Lee, if you had a random stranger, or you had to pick a random stranger and say, you know what, you would like my channel, who would you say would like DRUMDUMS?
I think horror fans, first and foremost. But I get a lot of comments from people that aren't necessarily horror fans. So I think you just have to approach every review like it's not a horror movie, but it's just a movie. So I guess the answer to that question would be, horror fans, but it'd also be, just non-horror fans, really.
Mhm.
Oh, that's a bad answer.
Just movie fans.
Monster, and I'm fucked up for good. That's it.
Well, mostly horror fans, but movie fans, I guess, is what you're getting at.
Yeah, that's it. Movie fans. You said it better than I did.
All right, so Brian Lomax, Lee, who would win a fight between you and Cody?
Me and Cody don't fight. We're
So Cody,
lovers,
just
not
Cody
fighters.
then.
So
Lee was standing there and tried to give hugs. Well,
I've always been my mom actually calls me the peacemaker. Like I've always been the person that tries to diffuse fights. So I've never been that type of person.
Does that get frustrating at all? I mean, I give you shit for it a lot, but there's got to be times where it's got to be a little frustrating to be you and take the high road so much. No?
Oh yeah,
a little bit at least.
Yeah. There's definitely times where there's been times on YouTube where I've had to take a step back for a day, because you get pissed off at, I think YouTubers will go through cycles, and sometimes things aren't going at the pace that you want them to go. And so you get frustrated, and then you might get somebody that makes a comment that really, really just rubs you the wrong way. And you want to go to that keyboard, but then you just, or at least I do. I pull back and I say, maybe I should think before I say this, because I might mean it and I might type it later, but maybe I should think before I do it. So yeah, of course I get upset sometimes. It happens.
What do you have lined up as far as films are concerned? More Argento? ?
Oh man, reviews. That's it's tough because a lot of times you want to be spontaneous with what you're reviewing. I don't like to review something if my heart's not in it. And a lot of my subscribers, I don't want them to take offense if I say if I don't review something right away. Like this one of my subscribers, he wanted me to review The Raid, and he asked me probably on every video for maybe 50 videos. And I appreciate that. He's really passionate about The Raid, and there's something about my reviews that makes him want me to talk about it. So that's very flattering. And but yeah, I mean, it's my heart has to be in it for me to talk about it. And I did watch The Raid recently this weekend, and I actually reviewed it. I have to. That's the next video I'm editing. So I think that's why I brought that up. But I get like, and believe me, I am not complaining, but I probably get daily messages asking me to review X movie,
Yeah.
And I add it to the list. I have a list that I put together, a Word document, and I put their name next to it. So that's a little tip for you too. If you want to keep track of, because you can lose track of who asked you. I've forgotten things before. So I make sure I put a Word document, I put the title of the movie, and then I put their name next to it.
Yeah. So I'll say it for you. I've witnessed this firsthand with Emily. She's got this long laundry list of things that people have asked her to review. And I'm like, half of this is shit. I wouldn't spend 5 seconds on half of this. So you're quite a saint to both of you actually to take on such projects. But
I like digging into a really bad movie. Like bad movies are fun to review sometimes. Like
have fun with it. Sure.
Jason from Sinister Cinema Reviews just brought this up a while back. That he says I review dog shit. Sometimes you got to review dog shit, and sometimes like. The Crow Wicked Prayer is like one of the worst movies I've ever seen, and I hated it so much that I said I'm gonna stop after Salvation, which is no gem by itself either.
Ugh.
And then I had a bunch of commenters say, "Why don't you review The Crow Wicked Prayer? I mean, finish it off.
Keep going,
keep going." So, matter of fact, it was Zach from Cavern of Terror. He said, "Hey, I think this is before I even knew Zach that well," and he commented, "It was like, hey, you got to review Crow Wicked Prayer." So. I reviewed it, and you know what? That was like one of the funnest reviews I've ever done.
Zach and that infinite shitty sequel game that just
But you know what? It's on the flip side of that, it's tough to get through some of those good bad movies, and then there's just bad movies. Like the Hellraiser series, I have 3 more Hellraiser movies to do if you include Judgment, and it ain't getting any easier, people.
I feel that way about Leprechaun. Leprechaun is just
I mean, at least with Halloween and Friday the 13th, you have hills and valleys. You know?
Yeah. There's hope. There's a light at the end of the tunnel with some of those.
Yeah.
4K Cinema asks Lee, if you can remake one film, will it be, besides a horror film, what is it and why? That's
So
not a horror film. Remake a film that isn't a horror.
That isn't horror? Well, I think you'd want to remake something that's bad, because I don't really like when they remake the greats, the classics, you know? To me, that's just pointless. Man, that's a tough one, though. You know, there, just to give the original some notice, To Live and Die in LA is a good example of a movie that I think is so underrated, like nobody knows about it, but it's fantastic. And so I would say remake that one, even though the remake won't be nearly as good, but just to give some some spotlight to the original. I mean, that's like my best answer right now that I can think of. I'm sure there's some really bad movies out there that probably need remakes, that have like really interesting premises. Like I saw a movie just last week called Bad Apples, and it had one of the coolest premises. Like, this could be freaking like one of the best horror movies, but the execution was just so bad that I immediately wanted a remake.
So Brian Lomax asks Lee, what is horror 101?
Isn't that the question, Brian?
What are we, Nietzsche? Besides Halloween 2018, what other films are you looking forward to this year?
Definitely The Strangers. Oh man, I'm a big fan of the first Strangers movie, and this is a remake that I've been wanting. Not a remake. This is a sequel that I've been wanting for 10 years now. So that one I'm super excited. One that I wish was coming out was 28 Months Later.
Yeah, that's been in development hell, hasn't it? It's been coming out.
Development hell. It'll never get off the ground. It seems like it. And there's a script out there for it, actually, written by Alex Garland. But for some reason, it still just won't get made. It's weird. But yeah, for this year, I mean, movies that jump out at me are definitely Halloween and The Strangers.
Emily asking a solid question here. Lee, if you had to research for a movie or background, if you have to research a movie for background info on other people's evaluations, which sites / literature do you turn to the most?
For background info on movies, I usually go to like Internet Movie Database, because you can go to like the trivia section.
Oh man, you love those trivia tidbits too.
I do, man. People like that stuff, and I like that stuff. I love.
Nah, I'm with you. I give you shit because I love you. I get it.
I've always had a thing for like behind the scenes type stuff with movies. It's like I'm one of those guys that watches the documentaries on the special features.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that they buy the DVD, they watch the movie, that's it, they're done with it. Whereas me, I watch the movie, then I go and I watch the special features. I like that stuff, and so it's like there's no way that stuff couldn't make it in my reviews in my mind.
So Cody answered, Lee and I would go to punch each other, and then we jump in the air and hug in mini shorts like Rocky 3.
That's a better answer.
Yeah. And there's a debate as to who's Apollo, and apparently Cody's Apollo.
Oh, Beth says commentaries. I love commentaries. Like sometimes I'll just throw a commentary on while I'm like, ironing or cleaning or something like that. And a lot of times you can
ironing?
Yeah, I have to iron sometimes. In the military, man, we have to iron all the time.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
You can't come in with a wrinkled uniform. But you can find out things in commentaries that you won't find in like you usually won't even find it in like Internet Movie Database. Like a perfect example was when I did Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. I was looking forward to reviewing that one because it's just such an odd movie. And I was like, you know what? I don't have that much information on this movie. So I'm gonna throw in a commentary. Luckily, there was a commentary on the DVD with the director, and man, that was one of the best commentaries I've ever heard, because he pretty much gave you the whole story about why half of the movie was the first Silent Night, Deadly Night, where Garbage Day came from. I mean, all that stuff is in there. So yeah, I love commentaries.
So Brian Lomax asks, if you can punch anyone in the face, who would it be?
Ooh, I gotta be careful with my answer on that one. I don't want to punch anybody in the face. I mean,
Oh, Lee.
I mean, seriously, like if somebody said that face could be right there now and you could punch it, I probably wouldn't do it. I'm just that type of person. But
high road again.
and I
Okay.
don't want to say Hitler. I don't, that's like the cliche answer, right?
Mm, mm.
There's probably been a few subscribers that I've wanted to punch in the face.
Oh, yeah, that's the closest thing to an honest answer I'll take from you, Lee. Yeah,
Yeah, that's an honest answer. There's been a few times. I'm sure Cody can agree with me on this. I'm sure he's had some subscribers that he wanted to.
Well, see, the difference between you and Cody is Cody, I think, will like.
Oh yeah, he'll let them
just
know right up.
Yeah,
right up
yeah.
Front.
He tells.
I love Cody's responses too, man. They're the best.
Mm-hmm. How did you come up? No, Monty, he covers that. Lee, you talk about how you come up with your channel name in your Q&A videos, right? DRUMDUMS.
Yeah, I've covered it before, but I'll say it. It's I think everybody they want to come up with something catchy, and I didn't want to use my name. I didn't want to put like Lee McCoy Reviews or anything like that. It had to be something that was catchy, and I thought I'm a drummer, so drum was going to be a part of it. Because at first I was going to be like 25% drum covers, and now I'm probably like 2% drum covers. And so drum, and then dums came from, I am kind of, what's the better word for this? Kind of a dummy sometimes, I guess, just kind of stupid sometimes.
Well, isn't it a play on the lollipops, DRUMDUMS?
Honestly, in my mind, it wasn't, because I'd never heard of DRUMDUMS lollipops.
Really?
And just to make this interesting, you know how you can type in "will I like it reviews," and by the time you get to the second I, it'll show up in YouTube.
Yeah, and then it says scumbag or something like that. Yeah.
Me, when I type in DRUMDUMS on YouTube, it never autocorrects because of DumDums. YouTube automatically thinks I'm wanting to type DumDums, and so once I get to like the M, the second M before the S, then YouTube will have my name, and then it'll have like Halloween, Friday the 13th, The Crow. I mean, but yeah, it's weird. Like, and I was jealous. I was like, man, all these other channels, you type in their name, Brian Lomax, you type in Brian, boom, Lomax Movie Talk, whatever. But yeah, in mine, for some reason, it wouldn't, and that was because of DumDums. And I never knew that until the guy that came up with the design, Woody Byrne.
See, I meant to wear your shirt today. Damn it.
Yeah, that's okay. He came up with the design, DRUMDUMS. He sent me a message, and he's like, "Hey, I'm a graphic designer, and I made this up because I always think of DumDums when I say your name." And so he made like a DRUMDUMS, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's fucking amazing!" And so yeah, but yeah, I never knew about DumDums. That was just something that came after.
If you could have any prop from any movie, what would it be?
Ooh, boy, that's a good question. Probably like like a Myers mask, like
probably part 6, right? No.
Yeah, like the actual mask used on George P. Wilbur from Halloween 6. Hell yeah, that'd be freaking awesome. Something like that. Yeah. I'm a big fanatic of Halloween 6. That's just one of those movies, man. I just love it.
So Emily says the commentary for 1408 was really interesting. Sinister.
Yes, I've heard that commentary is really good, actually.
What's your favorite horror documentary?
Oh man, this is an easy one. I throw this one in all the time too, actually. It's the Michael Lives documentary on Rob Zombie's Halloween. Ooh. And I'm not even the biggest fan of the first Rob Zombie's Halloween, but I mean, if you want to learn filmmaking 101, there's your 101 for you.
Hey,
if you want to learn filmmaking 101, watch that documentary. It's every freaking step of the process, from the idea of a Halloween remake all the way to the execution. I mean, reshoots. I mean, he covers the gamut. Like, and he has it broken up perfectly too. Like, you don't have to watch the whole thing all at once. He's got it broken down into like 18 different sections, like day 1, day 2, day 3, and it's 4 hours, but it's great. I mean, if you're a Halloween fan too, it's awesome. But also, if you're just like wanting to learn film, and if you've ever thought about going to film school, boy, that's a great introductory.
Sure. And as a film school dropout, you don't really need to go to film school, for the record.
Yeah.
If you could play a victim in a horror movie, who would you want to kill you?
Oh, that's easy. Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Or Michael Myers. Thank
Michael
you,
Myers.
Kelly Marie Farrell. She is one of my patrons. Thank you very much, Kelly. I appreciate that.
Yes. Support is always welcome and appreciated.
Always.
If you could re-edit any film, what would it be and why?
I actually do it from time to time.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I actually made my own cut of Halloween 6. I combined the producer's cut with the theatrical cut, and I made the version I wanted to watch. And that's the version I watch every year. And it wasn't a hard edit to make. There was a few things that I threw in here and there, but you know, I like messing around with movies like that too. Like when there's two different cuts and making my own version. I did that with Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 as well. Because the director's cut has some great character moments in it, but I do not like the ending because making Michael Myers talk is stupid. You know, especially when he says no, it's really stupid. So I put in the theatrical ending and I married it up to the director's cut before.
So a bit of a similar type of question, Lee. Is there a score that you love to put your drumming on top of to make it better, to give it a better vibe? Oh, the Viz. Holy shit! What's up, man?
Score. Escape from New York.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
Yes, Escape from New York.
The burning is way better than Friday. That's a comment. That's not a question.
You know what? I will say Sleepaway Camp is my favorite camp slasher.
Ugh.
Can I say something about Emily's channel?
Oh, can you? Here we go. Passing the buck. Go ahead.
I think her channel is so underrated, and it pains me that she's not like at the level she should be. Giving, you know, I can spot when somebody puts a lot of time and effort into their work.
I could attest to it from firsthand knowledge.
Yeah, you have firsthand knowledge. It's clear to me that she puts so much work into her videos, and every time I watch one of her videos, I'm like, this should have like 50,000 views.
Right.
It's that good.
Right.
And I wanted to say that, like, if you're in the chat right now, please check her content out. I mean, you will thank me. I promise. It's so entertaining, and she's hilarious.
Yeah, that was the way before I knew who she was. That was the first thing I noticed about her channel.
Oh yeah, I mean,
just razor sharp comedy, and to see what she puts into it, it's like I can't bring my comedic element into my videos for some reason, but she very sharp with
it. There are people out there that can get views based on their looks, which Emily could do.
Right. I keep telling her, just wear a low cut shirt. It's so easy.
Got the talent to back it up, though.
Right. And it's quite admirable that she's doing it the non-cheating way. And
yeah. I just had to say that. So.
Whatever horror film has a succubus chick, that's who can kill me. All right. So the questions have died off. Lee, what do you have coming up that you can? I mean, I'm pretty sure more of your people are here than my people, but what do you have coming up that you can get people fired up for in 2018 on DRUMDUMS?
Well, I just in 2018 I got a few reviews that I want to do. Like, I love doing my revisited reviews, but I can't just jump right into them because they're so like lengthy. Like, and I know Cody, man, every one of his videos, I don't know how he does it. His videos are like
20 minutes,
20 minutes minimum. And I would be exhausted. Like, I'm not that guy. My videos are usually like 10 minutes, maybe even like 7. But when I do a revisited review, I usually strive for 20. That's like, and that's great, but that takes a lot of work. I mean, when me and you did the Horror Needs a Hero, man, I remember just sitting there editing away, and we were like chatting with each other back and forth, but just plugging away at it day after day after day, because those were like, didn't we make one that was like an hour long or something like that?
50 minutes, like, and that was still trimmed down. Like, I think our combined footage was like an hour and 20.
Man, I love that. So Horror Needs a Hero is definitely one of my things I want to jump back on this year. I want to put out a full like hour-long episode of Horror Needs a Hero, and maybe we can work on it in sections and then eventually put it all together and then publish it. Man, I love doing Horror Needs a Hero. So that's fun. Me and Cody are actually going to review It, the original 1990 It, from two different perspectives. He grew up with it, so he loves that movie. I've never seen it.
Oh,
so we're both going to put out 2 reviews at the same time with different perspectives.
interesting premise. Yeah.
Yep. And we're also going to do, we're going to review every Phantasm movie, because I've never seen the Phantasm movies either.
I haven't. I've heard they're just as strenuous as Hellraiser.
We might not make it to 3, but we'll try. Right, Cody? So
yeah, Kelly says all the Halloweens need to be revisited once a new one comes out.
yeah, my next Halloween that I want to revisit is 5. I've done 1, 2, 4, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, and Halloween 6. So the next one I want to delve into is 5, because there's a lot of interesting things to talk about with 5. It's one of those movies, like, there's a lot of bad about it, but there's some interesting things about it too. And I think it's one of those, like, behind the scenes wise, is like one of the most interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I definitely want to delve into that one.
And anything big, or like anything that you would say that, keep an eye. It's not, nothing planned has come to fruition yet, but you'd really like to, before the year's over, I'd like to do blank.
Probably franchise, some other franchise. I just don't know what that franchise is yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of want to surprise myself and just do something that I haven't done before too.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's always exciting to, I mean, if you look at my channel, if you look at my playlists, I have like way too many playlists. And it's because I like to try, I get bored quickly, so I like to try different things. So I got DRUMDUMS drives, I got DRUMDUMS watches. DRUMDUMS watches are fun too, because they're getting up to like 40 minutes now. And it was funny, as my first DRUMDUMS watches where I did 6 Halloween movies, and somehow I squeezed that whole thing into like 30 minutes. Now I'm doing 1 movie and I do 40 minutes on it. So that's a whole thing that's kind of progressing on its own.
I'm going to ask you for my own sake. Do you ever think you're going to go to like Universal Classic Horror and cover those?
Yeah, I'm totally not against it. I mean, I try movies that I normally wouldn't watch all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
I could totally, I mean, of course I've seen Frankenstein, which I love. So yeah, I definitely plan on jumping into those eventually. I'd like to actually see the original Wolfman, because I like the Benicio del Toro version. I think that's a pretty underrated movie, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'd like to jump into some of the classic Universal monsters. I mean, hey, we when we were kids, we loved those movies,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
You're getting a request to say "fuck off, Wade."
Oh, fuck off, Wade, man. I love Michael Mims. He's the one that started the whole fuck off Wade thing in Killer Flicks, and now I'm bound and determined to make a t-shirt out of it. So
all right, so any last words before we wrap this up, Lee?
What do you have planned next for your Savage Cinema?
What the fuck? Why are you passing this off on me? It's about you. You know
I'm craving more Savage Cinema. I want to know what your next Savage Cinema is going to be.
Friday 6.
Yes,
it's coming out for my birthday. It's my own present to myself.
Oh, dude, I can't wait for that.
Well, thank you. Come on, seriously. Let's talk about you. All right. What do you want to say before we say goodbye to everybody?
Hey, I just want to say thank you to everybody that stopped in and said hello, and thank you to you for asking me to do this. That was it's such an honor, because you're a great reviewer. I mean, reviewer. You're a great
reviewed in years.
You're a great interviewer. So.
Okay, thank you. But yeah,
man. And you know what? I'll just say this too, man. CP, we've been through a lot together. We both started this thing pretty much around close to the. I don't know exactly when you started YouTube, but we kind of came
around the same time, 2015.
Yeah, we came up together, and we've been through so much together. You've always had my back. I've always had your back.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? You've always been such a great friend. So just want to say, for my first interview, it couldn't have been a better person to do it.
Aww,
yeah,
thanks.
I mean that. There's that nice guy again.
Hugs and hand jobs for Lee, everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah, so let me say thank you, Lee. 13 is an important number to me, and
Yeah.
I just want to go on record and say I asked you to do this before this whole YouTube craze thing happened, so I'm not exploiting you just yet. But
Yeah, that's fine.
your audience is much appreciated, and I look forward to doing more with you. At this point, it's really just a formality, but just goodbye for now.
Yeah. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great night.
Take it easy.